Good morning, everyone. There's been a lot happening for all of us, personally and globally, obviously. You'd have to be in a hole or a cave in Tibet or something like that to not know what is happening. A tremendous wave of energies and events happening. It's really shaking the matrix and redefining it, it feels like. The other day, I posted in a group on Facebook and shared a portion of what I am seeing and feeling, and it's a little bit long, so I'll try and condense the backstory on it, because there is a backstory on it, as usual for me. I usually do have some sort of backstory or synchronicity that unfolds, and it's like me connecting the dots of the synchronicities to then bring forward the potential of what is before us or me. So as I'm going to actually share this post with you, I'm going to read it because, to be perfectly honest, I'm so inundated with the influx of energies on both a personal and global level that I don't really have a whole lot of ability to focus. I'm just kind of receiving. So when I do have a moment of clarity and am able to write something down, I do. I'm also, while I'm reading this information that I shared with you, I'm shuffling my animal spirit deck, and I was called to also bring out a deck that I haven't worked with in quite a while, but it is the sacred geometry deck. So we'll see what that's all about too, because I have faith in what I'm being guided. Okay, so I wrote, there's a Chicago-based event, potential red flag being implemented. So the backstory is my 16-year-old divinely empathic autistic son, he often blurts out random statements that I have learned to pay attention to. He never gives any further information and always looks at me like I have three heads when I ask him what he just said. So I firmly believe and know that he is channeling, and on occasion it bleeds through into a statement for him. And this is how it works, and I feel this is part of our relationship, he and I. We're very synchronistic. So he never gives any further information and always looks at me like I have three heads when I ask him what he just said. Between his statements and my own channeled messages, I can be very busy. Keep in mind, he is not searching on the internet or anything that a typical kid would be possibly doing. Back in the end of August, he stated, there was no bombs in Chicago. I took a mental note because at the same time I was receiving that a series of events was lining up. Then approximately 3 weeks ago, he randomly stated to my husband, there's a fire in Chicago. When hubby asked, what do you mean, bub? He said, yeah, a Chicago fire. Big. So this kind of led my husband and I to question if this was some sort of past life bleeding through, or if this was actually prophetic statements. So we just kind of sat on it, which we often do because we know in due time it will come forward. So fast forward to a couple of days ago when I woke up to a thought of blackhawks. I actually had a vision of these black birds, but they looked like hawks, but were completely black. So I kind of fumbled with what I was seeing. And obviously I questioned, am I seeing hawks or am I seeing ravens or what? Shortly after that, as I was getting up and moving around to start my day, I heard helicopters. They were very loud, like low flying and big. And it reminded me of back when I was in search and rescue. And I was down at Hurricane Andrew, and it was like a war zone, or what I can only imagine a war zone is like. And when the Sikorsky helicopters started flying in, it was a very surreal feeling. I kind of got a flashback of that when I heard these helicopters at like 5 a.m. A couple of mornings ago. So as I was kind of taking in the whole sensory of the helicopters, and I realized that there was a synchronicity between that and my vision and questioning of what birds I was seeing. And it came to me that this red flag event, this Chicago-based event, has to do with Black Hawk helicopters. And, you know, when things start unfolding, you know, empathically and intuitively and prophetically, it's kind of funny how it's like a click, click, click. And for me, it's like a slideshow. It can be very much like a slideshow. And so what clicked in my head in that moment, as soon as I stated and understood and was piecing together the helicopters and the Black Hawks and Black Hawk helicopters, it clicked in my head. The Chicago Blackhawks, which I'm not a sports person at all, but I do know that, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is a team in Chicago, the Chicago Blackhawks. So I had a little brief moment of kind of, you know, like a dog, kind of trying to shake it off and clear it up. And so the final synchronicity of this whole Chicago event is that, oddly enough, when I went on to yet another private investors group, somebody had posted a YouTube video about a fleet of Black Hawk helicopters, apparently a day or two, I'm not sure of the timeline, before, had flown through the city of Chicago. And they were questioning if this was a drill or what it was. So again, there was like another kind of wink or tap on the shoulder from my guides and my higher self that there is some legitimate synchronicities here. So with that, I tell people, you know, I like to take the observer and just kind of perch and observe and wait and see. I don't have a timeline on this at all. Although I do know that October and November are going to be, to say the least, action-packed on all levels. And with that, there are many events lining up and I honestly haven't been able to organize them to an accurate timeline. I think that's mostly because timelines are doing this collapsing, and I keep repeatedly getting this visual of dominoes falling. So there is a timing, a universal timing. It has nothing to do with our linear time whatsoever. But there's a universal timing to this all. And I think I just want to kind of note to keep observation of Earth activities in Indonesia, which has been confirmed by the tsunami that I spoke about to some people a couple of weeks ago. Also Greece. Africa keeps coming up in the ring of fire. There was something that happened over the weekend. It was a very active weekend for me. And that was, again, at this, it's still dark out at 5 a.m. here on the east coast of the States. But I very clearly heard, and it was actually the first time that I very clearly heard earth noises. And I'm sure many of you have seen and heard the videos that people post of these. Sometimes it sounds like trumpeting, and other times it sounds like creaking and moaning and groaning. And to me, what I heard the other morning, it was not long. I would say it was between 3 and 5 minutes. I can't say that it was more than that. I will say that it actually caught the attention of the dogs too, which told me that it was not in my head, that it was a very real thing. It was very loud. It sounded like metal twisting or creaking. And so that, when I tuned into it, I got a visual of plates, the earth plates shifting in a fault line. And several fault lines actually are changing. They're shifting. They're actually connecting more profoundly. And I saw this fault line go from East Coast and join up into, I want to say like Colorado, maybe a little past Colorado, maybe Washington State. And that might be why I'm seeing Alaska also. It has also been somewhat popping up in my vision. So let's just kind of take note of that and see how it falls. But this is going to be a large earthquake event, minimum of 6 on the Richter, minimum. I also, you kind of, if you're channeling events, you really can't avoid any kind of global politics or governmental stuff that's happening, even though it's not sometimes what we want to be saying, but we do. I feel like, and it might be a loop back around to this Chicago event, but I feel like martial law will become an active phase as most systems and programs collapse in the 3D density. And I think what we have is, I think I just said it, we have a collapse of the 3D density in the time loop or timelines that we're experiencing. And it doesn't mean that we will still not experience the 3D density, because whether we realize it or not, we do have the potential to go between densities. And that will become more apparent to people. And it might even freak some people out. But it is a potential within the hologram of our experience. Stay aware of the initiated space programs. There is a coup. It's really not a new program that is being talked about. It has existed for decades. It is just coming into its fruition because of the allowance of that. Past governmental people have not allowed it to come into its fruition. And it was really more of a battle of power and control. And now that is very much more so in balance. I won't say it's totally in balance, but it's more so in balance. Right now there's an increase showing an occurrence of UFO sightings. Most of those, I won't say all, but most of those are man-made and not even people on board, actually. They're more like a drone. They've really perfected this whole drone technology. And so they can actually send out fleets and get people distracted. And that's what it is. There's so many levels of distraction programming going on right now. It can be quite overwhelming. We just need to try and remain grounded and refocus and recenter as often as possible. Now, although there are motherships, and they are authentic and they are pro-humanitarian, these other programs of distraction are less humanitarian and even non-humanitarian. So they are not supporting our betterment. So that's kind of a synopsis. And of course, I'm sure today I'll get more clarity, more events, and so forth. But that's been up and through the weekend for me. I know others are speaking about an event, and I have an understanding that I don't feel like it's going to be a catastrophic one event. I think that's why I get the domino visual. It is a succession of events that all kind of blend in together, and it can be felt and seen and experienced as one big event. There is the component of the individual's own experience and events in their personal lives, and that all adds to the collective consciousness and that connection. So we are all affected by each other. So I'm gonna, for now, and then I'm gonna read these two cards for you, and then I'm gonna call it a day. There may be more coming up because I did post about. There was some synchronicity also over the weekend about virus programs and the non-humanitarian aspects of that. There are also humanitarian programs also, just to be clear. Okay, so I pulled up for us, and it makes sense. It's an earth card. It's rabbit. It's in balance. So rabbit is a very very sensory-based medicine. Everything is exaggerated with them. Their ears are exaggerated, so their hearing is more acute. Their eyes are large. They're seeing perhaps what others do not see. Their sense of smell, they're picking up. It's a very sensory medicine. This can oftentimes cause rabbit, excuse me, to present as being nervous, ungrounded, and scared, fearful. So that is the potential. I think, and I'm grateful that this came up right side, because this is where we need to be. We need to be aware. We need to have an understanding. We need to acknowledge and release. With the amount of influx on any level, energetics, messaging, visions, all of that, our sensory, it's all incredibly heightened right now. Almost, if you're feeling out of balance, then it's feeling staticky. Rabbit writes itself into balance by stillness. They have the ability to freeze in position and to blend in so that they can do a thorough observation of what is happening around them. So it really is a medicine with a message for us. We do have this capability and potential. So please take that to heart. I'm so not a preacher of fear. I am a preacher of empowerment. Knowledge is power. And empowerment occurs as a result if it is in balance. All right, so I pulled a sacred geometry card. And I have, like I said, I haven't used or worked with these cards in a long time. I've recently connected with some key code people who do a lot of amazing work with key codes, and it kind of triggered me to pull this deck out once again. The card I pulled, and I'll show you one side. I hope it can be seen. It is the Freedom card, and I'll post that right there. You're not going to probably see the whole thing, but I'll try and maybe if I slowly show you. So that's the key code for freedom. Now, freedom. I think, again, that is a complete message. Freedom from, freedom of. To get to freedom, we have to really work through the maze of challenges. And I don't really like to look at things as obstacles, because I think obstacles are an absolute block. I like to look at things as challenges, because challenges are very workable. And I'm very much about how we speak to ourselves and how we project to others, in words, especially with this whole social media. There is a massive level of mis and dis communication. And it is because of the words that we're using. So, if you can study that key code, it's pretty amazing. You can see it does have its maze-like code, but it also has, it makes me, when I look at it, it makes me feel that optimistic and have faith and belief in the potential for freedom. I'm just going to turn this around because these are two-faced cards, two-sided. And this is the artistic color rendition of what this key code looks like. And it's quite beautiful and quite significant. I love how it feels. So just take that in for a few minutes. I also love, this is purely by coincidence, no such thing, by synchronicity, that this word right here is cosmic. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. And I'll speak with you later. Peace in, peace out. Be the medicine, man. Just be it. Love to all.